Techland's Dying Light is the perfect concoction of both horror and action. The gameplay makes you feel completely in control of your character. The landscapes look beautifully real, and the story is slightly unique for a narrative about a zombie apocalypse.
Approaching Haran.
Data on the subject, Kadir Suleiman.
You play Kyle Crane, an operative for a humanitarian outfit called the GRE. The fictional quarantine city of Haran is infected by a zombie virus, and Crane is sent into the city to retrieve a classified document that was stolen by a former GRE operative who calls himself Rise. Rise is the main antagonist of this tale. Rise is the head of a militia in Haran composed of very dangerous individuals that pride themselves in attacking the non-infected. I particularly like how the game begins. Crane is dropped into Haran by parachute, and it is non-stop action for a while afterwards. He is promptly attacked by Rise's men as soon as he touches the ground, but he is then rescued by a woman by the name of Jade, who works at a place called the Tower. The Tower is a safe haven for Haran survivors who aren't complete psychopaths like Rise. Crane very quickly sides with the people of the Tower and tries to help them make supply runs. An interesting plot point is that Crane actually gets bitten by a zombie very early on in the story. Being bitten is actually not a death sentence in this world though. A GRE-created substance called antizin provides a temporary cure for any people who have been infected but haven't died and become zombies. If a bitten individual goes without constant dosages of antizin, they will turn into the monsters that go bump in the night. The story of Dying Light is mostly the same old zombie story that you have heard dozens of times before, but I particularly like the concept of Quarantine City and the outside world pondering on whether they should extinguish the city from the face of the earth to avoid future outbreaks. I also appreciate how Techland took some time to focus on character development. It's great how they managed to make me care about some of the supporting cast members. The relationship between Jade and Crane, for instance, developed very nicely over the course of the story. Rise had a little bit of a backstory as well, and therefore he wasn't just some kind of faceless enemy. The faceless enemies were the biters, as opposed to the formidable and crafty Rise. By the end, I cared enough to truly despise Rise, and I looked forward to seeing his demise. A good zombie story places relatable human characters in a post-apocalyptic landscape, but asks these characters to focus on more than just the obvious zombie threat. I feel as though Techland accomplished this in at least some respect. I do feel that perhaps some characters like Brecken and Troy could have been slightly more developed. I also feel that the ending was also slightly lackluster. But these are truly minor issues with Dying Light that are almost not worth mentioning. A way in which this game is unique in comparison to other zombie games is the clear differentiation between the days and the nights. The nights truly become scarier. The daytime zombies are much slower, while some of the creatures of the night are terrifyingly fast and powerful. Running for your life is pretty key in the dark of the night. I also love how dark Haran gets at night. Only being able to see at the extent of the beam of a flashlight makes everything more intense. Being able to run away efficiently seems to be a pretty key ingredient for a zombie game, so Techland created a zombie game with incredible free running mechanics. Parkour in a zombie game truly is a match made in heaven, or perhaps hell, depending on how you look at it. The free running gameplay creates so much player choice. The player can decide whether Crane will fight or flee. Both options are extremely viable. Most games with combat give players hundreds of fighting options, but very few great fleeing possibilities. In Dying Light, there are a host of awesome possibilities for both combat and agility. There are tons of different weapons that the player can collect, and the crafting system allows the player to create truly devastating melee weapons. I particularly like Dying Light's skills upgrade system. There are 3 upgrade trees in Dying Light: Survivor, Agility, and Power. As you complete story and side missions, you gain Survivor experience. As you fight enemies, you gain Power experience. The more you free run, the more you gain experience in the agility area. As I was playing, I had my eye on many different abilities. There were many times where I leveled up and I couldn't decide between 2 or more different abilities because so many of the abilities are fantastic game changers. My favorite upgrade tree is definitely agility. After all, the agility abilities is what makes Dying Light so unique. I really admire how you can climb any ledge that you can see. The ledges are not just set pieces, you can use them to your advantage. The melee combat is also impressively fluid. The bottom line here is that the gameplay mechanics in Dying Light make you feel extremely powerful. They make you feel truly in control of your character. My only concern with the gameplay is the shooting mechanics. I did not feel powerful shooting in Dying Light. The controls feel clumsy. You might expect that guns would be the most effective weapon in a zombie survival game, but that is not the case here. Melee weapons often seem to be the most effective option in most instances. I find this to be unrealistic. I don't feel as though guns do enough damage in Dying Light. Considering that shooting a gun attracts all sorts of unwanted zombie attention, I feel as though guns should be a lot more powerful. The living enemy AI, on the other hand, seem a little bit too accurate with guns, and yet they are very predictable at the same time. Rise's men follow specific patterns of gunplay that make them feel artificial. They don't feel like real people, which is unfortunate. Dying Light is a beautiful game, with great draw distances and realistic, dreary landscapes. I am very impressed by the numbers of zombies that can be seen on screen at any one time. Techland's efforts at creating zombie hordes for players to interact with is what makes the parkour such an incredible necessity to the game. I love how much effort Techland made in creating underwater environments too. One particular underwater mission sticks out to me. You are tasked with sneaking into a museum using the underwater entrance. It is a long swim filled with fish, plant life, blood and dead bodies. It was a particularly dark and eerie experience that contained some amazing level design. The music by Paweł Blaszczak sets the stage for Dying Light beautifully. Every track is accented with gritty, high-tension undertones. The action music makes you feel like you are truly powerful, but at the same time, it reminds you constantly that you could be brutally killed at any moment. Some of the tracks give off some fantastic retro horror movie vibes. Much like the game itself, the musical score balances the line between action-adventure and horror. The musical score is truly a treat to listen to. I loved my experience with Dying Light. The city of Haran looks amazing. The music is spectacular and the story is a little bit deeper than your average zombie tale. But most importantly, the gameplay mechanics are solid. The shooting mechanics leave something to be desired, but other than that, the gameplay mechanics leave the player feeling completely in control. I just wish that more games had a movement system like the one found in this game. Dying Light is a spectacularly fast, fluid, and ultimately fun zombie adventure.